He didn't just tie up a horse. He threw the animal out of a helicopter right in front of everyone. What seemed like pointless cruelty ended up triggering a twist no one could have seen coming. And the ending will blow your mind. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. The video exploded across social media like wildfire on what had been an otherwise peaceful Tuesday afternoon. Harrison Wells, the eccentric billionaire known for his unpredictable behavior and lavish lifestyle, had been caught on camera dropping a horse from a helicopter over a dense forest in Montana. The footage, brief yet shocking, showed the aircraft hovering above the vast woodland area, while amid cries of outrage that were already echoing across the internet, the image froze at the exact moment the animal was released from a height, with visible ropes wrapped around its body. Within hours, the clip had been viewed millions of times. The outrage was instantaneous and overwhelming. Environmental activists, celebrities, and millions of internet users demanded immediate punishment. The hashtag #WellsAnimalAbuse was trending worldwide. News outlets interrupted their regular programming to cover what was quickly becoming the scandal of the year. It seemed to be yet another insane act by a bored billionaire, ready to sacrifice innocent lives for fame or entertainment. Olivia Parker, a dedicated environmental investigator working for a non-profit organization called Wildlife Protection Alliance, first saw the video on her lunch break in her small office in Bozeman. Her colleague, Marcus Thompson, burst through her door, his face pale with shock. "Have you seen it? Wells went completely insane this time," he said, showing her his phone screen where the video was playing on repeat. Olivia watched in horror as the horse plummeted toward the forest below. She had spent years investigating animal trafficking cases, but the brazenness of this act left her momentarily speechless. Something about it disturbed her deeply, beyond the obvious cruelty. "This doesn't make sense," she finally said, taking the phone from Marcus and replaying the video. "Harrison Wells has been controversial, but he's never been cruel to animals. In fact, didn't he donate millions to the conservation project in Yellowstone last year?" Marcus shrugged. Maybe he finally lost it. Money does strange things to people. But Olivia wasn't convinced. She spent the rest of the afternoon searching for more information about the incident. The more she looked, the more details seemed off. The location of the video didn't match any public land registry she could find. The helicopter's markings had been deliberately blurred, and there was something unusually staged about the whole scene. That evening, as Olivia was preparing to leave the office, her secure email pinged. The sender was anonymous, but the subject line caught her attention immediately. "The Wells incident, not what it seems." Inside was a single document, property records showing that 3 weeks before the video was published, Harrison Wells had quietly purchased a vast tract of private land in the remote Montana wilderness, an area known for harboring rare wildlife species and consistently monitored due to reports of fauna trafficking. Olivia sat back in her chair, her mind racing. Why would Wells buy land in an area notorious for animal trafficking and then publicly commit an act that would draw worldwide attention to that very location? It didn't add up. The following morning, Olivia arrived at work to find her office. In chaos, the phones were ringing off the hook, with people demanding that Wildlife Protection Alliance take action against Wells. The organization's social media accounts were flooded with angry messages. Even their usually supportive donors were threatening to pull funding if they didn't condemn Wells immediately. "We need to issue a statement," said Diana Reed, the organization's director, during an emergency meeting. "The public expects us to take a stand." "I think we should wait," Olivia said, earning surprised looks from her colleagues. "Something about this doesn't feel right. I've been researching Wells, and this action contradicts everything he's done before." "Evidence doesn't lie, Olivia," Diana replied firmly. "We have video footage. The whole world has seen it." "Videos can be misleading," Olivia argued. Context matters. I'm just asking for time to investigate further before we potentially crucify someone who might not deserve it. But she was outvoted. The Wildlife Protection Alliance released a strong statement condemning Harrison Wells and calling for legal action. Olivia watched with growing unease as Wells's reputation was systematically dismantled across all media platforms. His company's stocks plummeted. Celebrities who had been photographed at his charity galas now publicly disavowed him. Politicians who had accepted his donations rushed to announce they were returning the money. Throughout it all, Wells remained curiously silent. No press releases, no interviews, no Twitter apologies. For someone known for his outspoken nature, his silence was deafening. 3 days after the video surfaced, Olivia received another anonymous email. This one contained a compressed file with dozens of documents, financial records, shell company structures, and a list of names, politicians, investors, and front companies, all connected to a multi-million-dollar wildlife smuggling operation. The documents indicated that the same reserve Wells had purchased was being used as a clandestine route for illegal transportation of endangered species. The media, still focused on the helicopter scandal, ignored these revelations when Olivia tried to bring them to their attention. But she couldn't ignore them. She cleared a wall in her apartment, pinned up printouts of the documents, and began connecting the dots with red string, creating a complex web of relationships and transactions. A week into her unofficial investigation, Olivia was approached by Ethan Carter, an independent journalist known for his investigative work on environmental crimes. They met at a quiet coffee shop on the outskirts of town. "I've been looking into the Wells case too," Ethan said after they'd settled with their drinks. "And I don't think he's the villain everyone's making him out to be." "What have you found?" Olivia asked, leaning forward. "For one thing, there's no record of that horse being hurt or abandoned. In fact," he lowered his voice, "I have a source who claims the horse was safely rescued minutes after that video was taken." Olivia's pulse quickened. "Do you have proof?" Ethan hesitated, then pulled out his tablet. "This arrived yesterday. I verified its authenticity as best I could." He played a video that appeared to be drone footage. It showed the same location as the viral clip, but from a different angle. The horse, which had been fitted with a special harness, was gently lowered to the ground, not dropped as the viral video suggested. Once on the ground, a team of uniformed people quickly surrounded the animal, removed the harness, and led it to a sheltered area where it was given water and examined by what appeared to be a veterinarian. The timestamp shows this was taken minutes after the original video, Ethan explained. "And look at this." He zoomed in on one of the uniforms. Embroidered on the shoulder was a small logo, a stylized W inside a circle. "Wells Industries," Olivia murmured. "Exactly. But here's what's really interesting," Ethan continued, swiping to show another image. "This horse isn't just any horse. According to my source, it's a descendant of a rare breed that traffickers have been using as cover for moving prohibited species. They hide smaller animals inside specially designed compartments in the horse's transport crates." Olivia felt a chill run down her spine. The pieces were starting to fall into place. "So you think Wells staged the video to draw attention to the trafficking operation?" Ethan nodded. "It's the only explanation that makes sense. He's sacrificing his own reputation to expose a crime that's been invisible to the public and law enforcement for years." As they continued their conversation, neither noticed the man sitting 2 tables away, pretending to read a newspaper while discreetly photographing them with a small camera. By nightfall, those photos would be in the hands of people who had a lot to lose if Harrison Wells' true intentions were ever revealed. That night, as Olivia drove home, her mind was buzzing with possibilities. If what Ethan suggested was true, then Wells wasn't a villain. He was potentially risking everything to expose a massive criminal enterprise. But why choose such a dramatic and self-destructive method? Why not just report his findings to the authorities? Unless, she realized with growing dread, the authorities couldn't be trusted. The documents she'd received had implicated several high-ranking officials. If Wells had tried to go through official channels, his evidence might have been buried or destroyed. She was so lost in thought that she almost missed the car that had been following her for the past 10 minutes. When she noticed it, her heart rate spiked. She made a series of random turns to confirm her suspicion. The car stayed with her. Olivia gripped the steering wheel tighter, her knuckles turning white. She was getting close to something dangerous, something people would kill to keep hidden. And for the first time since the scandal broke, she felt genuinely afraid. Olivia didn't go home that night. After spotting the tail, she drove to a motel on the outskirts of town, paid cash for a room, and spent the night poring over the documents she'd received. She barely slept, fueled by a mixture of adrenaline and cheap coffee from the vending machine outside her room. By morning, she had covered the motel room walls with notes and connections, creating a more comprehensive version of the investigation board in her apartment. The web of corruption was vast and intricate. At its center was a company called Northland Resources, ostensibly a land development firm. But according to the documents, it was a front for a sophisticated wildlife trafficking operation. The company had been purchasing small parcels of land throughout Montana and creating a network of private roads that connected to the larger reserve, the same reserve Wells had recently acquired. Olivia's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Need to talk. Wells case bigger than you think. Meet at Sky Coffee, 2 p.m. Come alone. Ethan must have gotten a new number, she thought. She texted back a simple "okay" and continued her work. Around noon, she received another anonymous email. This one contained a video file with footage that appeared to be from security cameras. It showed uniformed men loading crates onto trucks at night. The location was difficult to determine, but one of the crates was briefly opened, revealing what looked like exotic birds with brilliant plumage. At 1:30 p.m., Olivia packed up her notes and drove to Sky Coffee, a small establishment in downtown Bozeman. She arrived early and chose a table with a clear view of both the entrance and the emergency exit. Ethan was late, which wasn't like him. At 2:15 p.m., just as she was about to leave, a young woman approached her table. "Are you Olivia Parker?" the woman asked. She was in her mid-20s with short blonde hair and alert eyes that constantly scanned the room. "Who wants to know?" Olivia replied cautiously. "My name is Sophie Wells. Harrison Wells is my uncle." The woman sat down without waiting for an invitation. "And I need your help to clear his name." Olivia's surprise must have shown on her face because Sophie smiled grimly. "Not what you expected, I imagine. Ethan couldn't make it. He was detained this morning, trumped up charges of trespassing on private property. He managed to get a message to me before they took his phone." "Who detained him?" Olivia asked, her voice low. "Local police, but they're not acting on their own. Someone's pulling strings." Sophie glanced around nervously before continuing. "My uncle knew what he was doing would destroy his reputation, but he didn't anticipate how quickly they'd move against him. They've frozen his assets, blocked his communications, and now they're targeting anyone who tries to help him." "Why? Are you telling me this? Why trust me?" "Because you're the only one who's publicly expressed doubt about the narrative. Everyone else has been quick to condemn him without asking questions. Ethan said you were different, that you were digging deeper." Olivia studied the young woman carefully. Sophie had the same intense blue eyes as Harrison Wells, whose face had been plastered across every news outlet for the past week. She looked exhausted and frightened, but determined. "What exactly did your uncle uncover?" Olivia asked. Sophie pulled out a USB drive from her pocket and slid it across the table. more than he ever anticipated. It started 3 years ago when he was scouting locations for a new wildlife sanctuary. He discovered that rare animals were disappearing from protected areas. When he tried to report it, officials brushed him off. So he began his own investigation, using his resources to track shipments and money trails. And that led him to Northland Resources? Olivia guessed. Sophie looked surprised. You know about them? I've been connecting some dots of my own. Then, you know they're just the tip of the iceberg. Behind them are powerful people, politicians, judges, even conservation officials who are supposed to be protecting these animals. Olivia picked up the USB drive, and this contains proof. Everything my uncle gathered over 3 years, but it's not enough to just expose the operation. They need to be caught in the act. That's why he staged the helicopter incident. To draw global attention to that specific area without tipping off the traffickers about his real intentions. It's a risky strategy, Olivia observed. He's become public enemy number 1. He was prepared for that. What he wasn't prepared for was how quickly they'd move to silence him and anyone connected to him. I had to disappear from my apartment 3 days ago. I'm pretty sure I'm being followed, and my uncle... Sophie's voice broke slightly. He's been completely isolated. They've detained him in his Montana estate under the guise of pending investigation, but it's essentially house arrest. All communication is monitored. So what's the plan now? Olivia asked, her mind already racing with possibilities. The USB contains coordinates for the next scheduled shipment. It's happening in 5 days. My uncle had arranged for independent wildlife protection agents to be there, but with him under surveillance, he can't contact them. We need to reach them and make sure they're still planning to intercept the shipment. Olivia hesitated. This was far beyond her usual work at the Wildlife Protection Alliance. She was an investigator, not a field agent. But if Sophie was telling the truth, this could be one of the biggest wildlife trafficking busts in history. I need to verify all this before I commit to anything, she said finally. Sophie nodded. I understand. That's why the USB also contains contact information for people who can corroborate everything I've told you. Former employees of my uncle who've been helping him, independent experts who've verified the evidence. You can reach out to them. Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of breaking glass. A brick had been thrown through the coffee shop's front window, sending customers scrambling and screaming. In the chaos, Olivia noticed 2 men entering through the now broken window, their eyes scanning the room purposefully. We need to go, Sophie whispered urgently. Now! They slipped out through the emergency exit just as the men spotted them. Outside, they ran to Olivia's car, which was parked in an alley behind the coffee shop. Do you have somewhere safe to go? Olivia asked as they sped away, checking the rearview mirror constantly. Not really. I've been staying at motels, moving every night. I know a place, Olivia decided. But first, we need to make sure we're not followed. For the next hour, Olivia executed every counter-surveillance trick she knew, driving through shopping mall parking lots, making sudden turns, and even briefly hiding in a car wash. Finally confident they'd lost any tail, she drove to a cabin on the outskirts of town. It belonged to her friend, a nature photographer who was currently on assignment in Alaska. We should be safe here for a while, Olivia said as they entered the rustic cabin. No one knows about this place except me and the owner, and he won't be back for months. Sophie collapsed onto a chair, the adrenaline that had been keeping her going finally wearing off. Thank you, she said quietly. You're taking a huge risk. Helping me? I haven't agreed to help yet, Olivia reminded her. Not until I verify what's on this USB. She connected the drive to her laptop and began reviewing its contents. What she found made her blood run cold. The evidence was comprehensive and damning. Financial transactions linking Northland Resources to shell companies in multiple countries. shipping manifests disguised as agricultural equipment that actually contained endangered species, photographs of officials accepting bribes, and most disturbingly, a list of rare animals with acquisition dates and market values that represented millions of dollars in illegal trade. "This is extensive," Olivia said after several hours of review. "Your uncle was thorough. He had to be. He knew what he was up against." Olivia turned to one of the contact names Sophie had mentioned, Dr. James Reynolds, a veterinarian specializing in exotic animals. She dialed his number, putting the call on speaker. A cautious voice answered. "Hello, Dr. Reynolds. My name is Olivia Parker. I'm calling regarding Harrison Wells." There was a pause, then, "I was told someone might contact me. Are you with Sophie?" "Yes, she's here with me. We need to verify some information." "I can confirm that Mr. Wells has been working to expose wildlife trafficking operations for years. I've personally examined animals rescued from these operations. The most recent was a horse, the same one from that viral video. It was used as a transport mechanism for smaller, more valuable species. Mr. Wells didn't drop that animal to its doom. It was a controlled descent, followed by immediate veterinary care by me." Olivia exchanged glances with Sophie. "And the upcoming shipment?" "It's real. Scheduled for Monday night. They're moving at least a dozen endangered species through the reserve. Mr. Wells had arranged for a team to intercept them, but I haven't been able to reach the team coordinator since Mr. Wells was placed under house arrest. Do you have contact information for this team?" "Only for the coordinator. I'll text it to you. But be careful. These people are dangerous. They've already made one attempt to access my clinic records." After the call ended, Olivia sat in silence for a long moment. Everything she'd learned confirmed Sophie's story. Harrison Wells wasn't a villain. He was a whistleblower who had chosen a dramatic path to expose corruption that had infected even those tasked with fighting it. "I believe you," Olivia finally said, "and I'll help you. But we need more than just the two of us. We need allies." "Who can we trust?" Sophie asked, the weight of the situation evident in her voice. "I have a few ideas," Olivia replied, already formulating a plan. "But first, we need to contact the team coordinator and make sure the interception is still on." The coordinator, a former military specialist named Ryan Fletcher, answered on the first ring when Olivia called the number Dr. Reynolds had provided. "I've been waiting for this call," he said without preamble. "Who am I speaking with?" After Olivia explained the situation, Ryan sighed heavily. "We've lost direct communication with Mr. Wells, but we're proceeding as planned. The team is assembled, but we're flying blind without his intel. If you have updated information, we need it." "We have coordinates and timing for the shipment," Olivia confirmed. "But there's a complication. Wells is under surveillance, and anyone connected to him is being watched or harassed. That's why we've gone dark. Meet me tomorrow at the old ranger station near Bridger-Bolski area, 10 a.m. Come alone and make absolutely sure you're not followed." As the call ended, Olivia felt a mix of determination and fear. She was now irrevocably involved in something dangerous and far-reaching. But she also felt a sense of purpose stronger than anything she'd experienced in her career. If they succeeded, they wouldn't just be saving endangered animals. They'd be exposing a corrupt system that had allowed exploitation to flourish unchecked for years. That night, as Sophie slept fitfully on the cabin's small couch, Olivia stayed awake, reviewing the evidence and planning their next moves. Outside, the Montana wilderness was quiet, except for the occasional call of a night bird. Somewhere out there, endangered animals were being smuggled away from their natural habitats, destined for private collections or traditional medicine markets around the world. And somewhere, Harrison Wells was waiting, hoping his risky gambit would pay off before it was too late. The next morning, Olivia and Sophie left the cabin before dawn. The drive to Bridger Bowl took them through winding mountain roads shrouded in early morning mist. Neither woman spoke much. The gravity of what they were undertaking weighed heavily on them both. "What if it's a trap?" Sophie finally asked as they approached their destination. "Then we walk away," Olivia replied, though they both knew it wouldn't be that simple. But Ryan Fletcher's background checks out. Former Special Forces, honorable discharge, spent the last 5 years working with international conservation groups. If anyone can help us intercept that shipment, it's him. The old ranger station was a weathered wooden structure nestled among pine trees, its windows boarded up and a "closed for renovation" sign hanging crookedly on the door. Olivia parked some distance away, and they approached on foot, staying within the tree line as much as possible. As they neared the building, a figure emerged from the shadows of the porch. He was tall and lean, with closely cropped salt and pepper hair, and the watchful demeanor of someone accustomed to assessing threats. "Miss Parker," he called softly. Olivia stepped forward cautiously. "Mr. Fletcher?" He nodded. "Did anyone follow you?" "No, we took precautions." Ryan Fletcher studied them both for a moment, then gestured toward the door. "Let's talk inside." The interior of the ranger station had been converted into a makeshift operations center. Maps covered one wall, with routes marked in red and various locations highlighted. A table in the center held communications equipment and several laptops. 2 other people were already inside. A woman with short red hair who was studying satellite imagery on one of the computers, and a man with glasses who was adjusting what looked like surveillance equipment. "This is my team," Ryan said. "Megan, Ross, our tech specialist, and Dr. Daniel Chen, wildlife expert. We were part of Mr. Wells' original plan." He turned to his colleagues. "This is Olivia Parker from the Wildlife Protection Alliance, and Sophie Wells, Harrison's niece." "You're taking a big risk coming here," Megan said, looking up from her computer. "Everyone connected to Harrison Wells is being watched." "We didn't have much choice," Sophie replied. "My uncle is isolated, and the operation is still scheduled for Monday night. Someone had to make contact." "What exactly is your uncle's situation?" Daniel asked, setting down his equipment. "House arrest, essentially," Sophie explained. "They're calling it protective custody pending investigation, but his communications are monitored. His staff has been limited to a few individuals who are likely reporting back to whoever's behind this, and his lawyers are fighting an uphill battle against public opinion and corrupted officials." Ryan gestured to the maps. "We've been planning this interception for months. Wells provided funding, equipment, and intelligence. Without his direct involvement, we're at a disadvantage, but we're still operational." "We brought updated information," Olivia said, producing the USB drive. "Coordinates, timing, and details about the shipment." Megan took the drive and inserted it into her laptop. As she reviewed the files, her expression grew increasingly serious. "This is bigger than what we initially prepared for. They're moving multiple species simultaneously, at least 3 times what we anticipated." "Can we still intercept?" Ryan asked. "Yes, but we'll need more people, and we need to adjust our positions." Megan began marking new locations on the map. "They're using 3 separate routes converging here." She pointed to a location deep within the reserve, before moving the combined shipment through this valley. "That's near where the helicopter incident occurred," Olivia noted. "Not a coincidence," Ryan confirmed. "Wells chose that location specifically to draw attention to the area without alerting the traffickers to his knowledge of their routes." Daniel examined the list of species included in the shipment. Siberian tigers, black rhino calves, golden eagle chicks. This is a multi-million-dollar cargo. No wonder they've gone to such lengths to protect their operation. "How do we stop them?" Sophie asked. "There are only 5 of us." Ryan exchanged glances with his team members. "We have a few more allies we can call in, former colleagues who can be trusted. But we also need media presence. independent journalists who can document the interception and ensure the evidence isn't buried. I know someone, Olivia said, thinking of Ethan Carter, but he's been detained on trumped-up charges. We might be able to help with that, Megan offered. I have contacts in the legal community who owe me favors. Over the next several hours, they developed a plan. Ryan would coordinate with his trusted contacts to assemble a team large enough to intercept all 3 shipment routes. Megan would work on securing Ethan's release and setting up secure communications for the operation. Daniel would prepare transport and temporary housing for the rescued animals. Olivia and Sophie would gather additional evidence linking the trafficking operation to its financial backers and political protectors. We need to be ready for significant pushback, Ryan warned. Once we intercept the shipment, they'll know their operation is compromised. They'll try to discredit us, threaten us, possibly worse. Which is why the media presence is crucial, Olivia emphasized. The more eyes on this, the harder it will be for them to sweep it under the rug. By mid-afternoon, the expanded plan was in place. Olivia and Sophie prepared to leave for their next task, meeting with a financial investigator who had been tracking suspicious transactions related to Northland Resources. As they were about to depart, Ryan pulled Olivia aside. You understand what you're getting into, right? These people have politicians, law enforcement, even judges in their pocket. They've been operating with impunity for years. Taking them down won't be easy or safe. I know, Olivia replied, but someone has to stop them. What they're doing isn't just illegal, it's destroying irreplaceable species for profit. Ryan nodded, a hint of respect in his eyes. Be careful out there, and keep Sophie safe. She's taking an enormous risk coming forward like this. Olivia and Sophie left the ranger station with renewed purpose. Their next destination was Billings, where they would meet with Grace Mitchell, a forensic accountant who had once worked for the FBI before starting her own consulting firm. The drive took several hours, giving them time to discuss the evolving situation. Do you think your uncle anticipated all of this? Olivia asked. The extent of the backlash, the way they would isolate him? Sophie stared out the window at the passing landscape. I think he knew it would be bad, but maybe not this coordinated. The speed with which they moved against him suggests they were already prepared for the possibility of exposure. They had contingency plans in place, which means they consider him a serious threat. He is, Sophie said with quiet pride. My uncle may be eccentric, but he's also methodical and patient. He spent years gathering evidence, following money, trails, identifying key players. He wouldn't have made his move unless he was confident it would work. Then why the helicopter stunt? Why not just take all his evidence to federal authorities? Because he tried that route first, Sophie explained. About a year ago, he approached a federal prosecutor with some of his findings. 2 weeks later, the prosecutor was suddenly reassigned to a different department and the investigation was closed without explanation. That's when my uncle realized how deep the corruption went. He needed to create a situation so public, so controversial, that it couldn't be quietly buried. They arrived in Billings just after 5 p.m. and met Grace Mitchell at a private office she maintained for sensitive consultations. Grace was in her 50s, with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She greeted them with cautious professionalism. Ms. Wells, Ms. Parker, I've been reviewing the financial data you sent ahead. It's quite compelling. She gestured for them to sit. But what you're suggesting, that these transactions indicate a wildlife trafficking operation protected by high-level officials, that's an extraordinary claim. With extraordinary evidence, Sophie countered, pulling out additional financial records from her bag. These are transactions from the past 6 months. Shell companies created solely to process payments, then dissolved, properties purchased through multiple layers of corporate entities. And here, she pointed to several highlighted entries, payments to these supposed consulting firms that align perfectly with the timing of shipments we've identified. Grace studied the documents with professional scrutiny. This is sophisticated money laundering, she acknowledged. And you believe Harrison Wells staged the helicopter incident to expose this operation? We have proof, Olivia said, producing some of the evidence from the USB drive. The horse was safely lowered, not dropped. The whole thing was carefully orchestrated to draw attention to an area that had been used for trafficking routes for years. If what you're showing me is authentic, Grace said carefully, then this is one of the most extensive wildlife trafficking operations I've ever seen. The financial structure alone suggests millions of dollars changing hands annually. It's authentic, Sophie assured her, and we need your help to follow the money all the way to the top. We know who's executing the operation, but we need to identify everyone who's profiting from it and protecting it. Grace considered this for a long moment. What you're asking is dangerous. These people have resources and influence. They won't hesitate to protect their interests. We know, Olivia said quietly, but we're proceeding anyway. In 3 days, we're intercepting a major shipment. When that happens, we need to be able to expose the entire network, not just the people physically, moving the animals. Finally, Grace nodded. I'll help you, but I'll need access to more data, banking records, tax filings, property transfers. We can get those, Sophie assured her. My uncle has contacts in the financial sector who've been gathering information. For him, as they continued their discussion, Grace's expertise revealed additional layers to the operation they hadn't yet uncovered. The money trail led to unexpected places, a charitable foundation supposedly dedicated to conservation, a research institute studying endangered species, even a high-end auction house specializing in ethical taxidermy. They've created a perfect cover, Grace explained. These legitimate-seeming enterprises provide both a way to launder the money and a justification for their interest in rare species. It's brilliantly structured. By the time they finished, it was past midnight. They had identified key financial nodes in the trafficking network and developed a strategy for following the money to its ultimate beneficiaries. Grace agreed to continue the analysis and prepare a comprehensive report, linking the financial evidence to the physical operation they planned to intercept. As Olivia and Sophie left Grace's office, exhaustion finally catching up to them, Olivia's phone buzzed with a text from Ryan. Ethan released. Meeting tomorrow, same location, 2 p.m., bring what you have. Good news, Olivia told Sophie. Ethan's out. We're getting our media coverage. Sophie managed a tired smile. One piece at a time, the puzzle comes together. They checked into a hotel for the night using cash and fake names as a precaution. As they settled into their room, the gravity of what they were undertaking seemed to hit Sophie anew. Do you think we'll succeed? She asked quietly. In clearing my uncle's name, in stopping this operation. Olivia considered the question seriously. I think we have a real chance. We have evidence, we have a plan, and we have people willing to take risks for the right reasons. That counts for a lot. I hope you're right, Sophie said, her voice thick with emotion. My uncle risked everything for this. His reputation, his business, his freedom, it can't be for nothing. It won't be, Olivia promised, though she knew the odds they faced. The traffickers had money, influence, and the advantage of operating in the shadows for years. But Harrison Wells had given them something powerful, a spotlight that couldn't be extinguished. The world was watching now, even if they didn't yet understand what they were seeing. As they drifted towards sleep, Olivia found herself thinking about the horse from the viral video. A creature unwittingly thrust into the center of a human drama, used as a symbol and a distraction. She wondered where it was now, whether it understood anything of the storm it had helped create. Probably not. she decided. Animals lived in a simpler world than humans, unburdened by the webs of deception and corruption that people spun around themselves. In 3 days, they would attempt to disrupt a criminal enterprise that had operated with impunity for years, protected by wealth and influence. The outcome would determine not just Harrison Wells's fate, but the future of countless endangered animals being trafficked from their natural habitats. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the opposition couldn't be more formidable. Yet despite the danger and uncertainty, Olivia felt a sense of rightness about their path. Sometimes justice required risk. Sometimes the truth needed champions, willing to stand in its defense, regardless of the personal cost. As she finally drifted off to sleep, Olivia made a silent promise to the countless animals whose fates hung in the balance. Their voices would be heard, their suffering would end, and those responsible would finally face justice. The day of the operation arrived with a tension that seemed to charge the very air. Olivia, Sophie, and the assembled team gathered at their staging area, a vacant hunting lodge that Ryan had secured for their use, located just outside the perimeter of Wells's property. The room buzzed with focused activity as equipment was checked, communications tested, and final positions confirmed. Ethan Carter, now free and determined to document the operation, was setting up his recording equipment. His face still showed signs of his detention, a fading bruise along his jawline, shadows of exhaustion under his eyes. But his resolve was undiminished. "How are you holding up?" Olivia asked him as they prepared to depart. "Better than expected," he replied, checking his camera. "Nothing like a few days in a cell on bogus charges to reinforce your commitment to the truth." He gave her a grim smile. "Thanks for getting me out. Your legal contacts work fast." "Thank Megan for that. She has connections I didn't know existed." Ryan gathered everyone for a final briefing. The team had grown to 15 people, former military specialists, wildlife experts, independent journalists, and even 2 sympathetic local conservation officers who had been suspicious of activities in the reserve for months but had been ordered to ignore them. "Tonight's operation has 3 phases, Ryan explained, pointing to the detailed map spread across the table. Phase 1. Surveillance teams take position at these 6 locations to confirm the shipment routes. Phase 2. Interception teams move in simultaneously once all shipments are in transit. We document everything and secure the animals. Phase 3. Media release of all evidence gathered tonight, combined with the financial and political connections we've assembled." "What about resistance?" one of the former military specialists asked. "Expect armed security with the shipments," Ryan answered honestly. "Our priority is documenting the operation and securing the animals. We avoid direct confrontation where possible. Law enforcement has been deliberately kept in the dark due to concerns about corruption, but we have a federal contact on standby who will respond once we have irrefutable evidence." The sun was setting as the teams departed for their assigned positions, moving in small groups to avoid detection. Olivia and Sophie joined Ethan and another journalist named Maya Rodriguez in the media documentation team. Their role was to position themselves at the central convergence point, where all shipments would meet before being transferred to larger transport vehicles. They drove as far as they could, then hiked the remaining distance through the darkening forest. The weather had turned chilly, and their breath formed small clouds in the evening air. They moved silently, guided by GPS coordinates and Ryan's meticulous planning. "Hold," Olivia whispered as they neared their destination. She pointed to a small clearing ahead, where shadows moved against the twilight. Through binoculars, they could make out several figures setting up what appeared to be a temporary processing station. Tables, lights powered by portable generators, and crates of various sizes. "That's it," Sophie breathed, "just like my uncle described. They process the animals here, verify their condition, then transfer them to specialized transport vehicles for the next leg of the journey. They settled into their observation position, camouflaged among dense underbrush with a clear view of the clearing. Ethan set up his camera with a night vision lens, while Maya prepared to record audio. Olivia established a secure communication link with the other teams. "Media team in position," she reported softly. "Activity at the convergence point confirms operation in progress." Similar confirmations came in from other teams, creating a picture of coordinated movement throughout the reserve. Surveillance units reported trucks moving along all three anticipated routes, right on schedule. As full darkness descended, the clearing was illuminated by powerful worklights. More personnel arrived, including what appeared to be veterinarians carrying medical equipment. Everything was conducted with clinical efficiency, suggesting a well-established routine. "They've done this many times before," Maya observed quietly. The first shipment arrived just after 10 p.m., a covered truck that backed carefully into the clearing. When the rear doors opened, Olivia had to stifle a gasp. Inside were cages containing young tiger cubs, their distinctive striped patterns visible even from a distance. The animals were sedated but alive, their shallow breathing visible as handlers carefully transferred them to a processing table where a veterinarian checked their condition. Ethan recorded everything, his camera capturing each movement, each face, each animal. Maya's directional microphone picked up conversations that confirmed exactly what they were witnessing: a shipment of endangered species being prepared for illegal transport. "Subject is displaying good vitals," one veterinarian reported clinically. "Estimated market value, 200,000 per specimen." The second and third trucks arrived within 20 minutes of each other, bringing more animals: exotic birds in specialized containers, small primates in transport cages, and even a pair of rhino calves, their small horns already showing the growth that made them valuable targets for poachers. "It's time," Olivia murmured into her communications device, giving the signal they'd agreed upon. "All teams, execute Phase 2. What happened next unfolded with precision that spoke to Ryan's planning. From multiple directions, teams converged on the 3 shipment routes and the central clearing. Powerful spotlights suddenly illuminated the entire area, temporarily blinding the trafficking personnel. Drones deployed by Megan captured aerial footage of the entire operation. The interception teams, wearing identifying vests clearly marked wildlife protection, moved in with disciplined coordination. "This operation is being documented and reported to federal authorities." Ryan's voice boomed through a megaphone. "All personnel are advised to remain in place. These animals are now under protection." There was initial resistance. Some security personnel reached for weapons, only to find themselves outnumbered and surrounded. Most surrendered without incident, recognizing the futility of resistance. A few attempted to flee into the forest, but were quickly intercepted by team members positioned for exactly that contingency. Within 30 minutes, the entire trafficking operation had been secured. The animals were being attended to by wildlife specialists, the personnel detained, and every aspect of the operation documented from multiple angles. Ethan and Maya moved openly now, recording interviews with team members and capturing footage of the rescued animals. Sophie stood in the center of the clearing, her expression a mixture of vindication and sorrow as she surveyed the creatures that had been destined for black markets around the world. "This is what my uncle was trying to stop," she said, her voice carrying clearly in the night air. "This is why he risked everything." Olivia was coordinating with Grace Mitchell, who had prepared comprehensive documentation of the financial network behind the operation. "We're sending everything to your federal contact now," Grace confirmed over the secure line. "Bank records, shell companies, political donations, payoffs, it's all connected and documented." Just as they were preparing to transport the animals to the temporary sanctuary Daniel had arranged, the sound of approaching helicopters filled the air. Spotlights swept the clearing from above, and a voice over a loudspeaker announced, "This is the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Remain where you are." For one tense moment, Olivia feared they had misjudged, that the corruption reached even to the federal level. But as agents dropped to the ground and secured the area, she recognized their leader, Special Agent Jennifer Lawson, the federal contact Ryan had mentioned. "Looks like you've been busy," Agent Lawson said, as she approached Olivia and Sophie. "We've received quite a data package from your financial analyst. Combined with what we're seeing here, it's enough to initiate one of the largest wildlife trafficking investigations in Bureau history." "What about the officials involved?" Sophie asked anxiously. "The ones who protected this operation." "Already being dealt with," Lawson assured her. "Warrant teams are executing simultaneous raids in 3 states. No one's getting away with this, not anymore." As the FBI took formal control of the scene, the true scale of what they had uncovered began to emerge. It wasn't just a trafficking operation. It was an entire network that had operated with impunity for years, protected by wealth and influence. The animals recovered that night represented millions of dollars in illegal trade, but they were just one shipment among many that had moved through the same channels. By dawn, the operation had made national news. Ethan's footage, combined with the financial documentation and the FBI's involvement, created a media storm that couldn't be contained or controlled by the powerful interests behind the trafficking network. The story led every major broadcast and dominated social media. But one crucial element remained unresolved. Harrison Wells, still under house arrest, his reputation in tatters. "We need to clear his name," Sophie insisted as they gathered at the hunting lodge the following morning, exhausted but triumphant. "All of this evidence proves he was acting as a whistleblower, not a criminal." "I'm working on it," Agent Lawson promised. "But legal processes take time, even with overwhelming evidence. The allegations against him have to be formally withdrawn." They didn't have to wait long. By mid-afternoon, breaking news alerts announced that all charges against Harrison Wells were being dropped. Federal authorities had issued a statement acknowledging his role in exposing the trafficking operation and apologizing for the misunderstanding regarding the helicopter incident. That evening, as the team celebrated their success, Olivia received a call from an unknown number. She stepped outside to answer it. "Ms. Parker?" a deep, cultured voice asked. "This is Harrison Wells. I understand I have a great deal to thank you for." Olivia found herself momentarily speechless. "Mr. Wells, we just did what was right." "Few people would have looked beyond the obvious narrative," he replied. "You did. You protected my niece. You helped expose a criminal enterprise that was destroying irreplaceable species. My gratitude goes beyond words." "Your plan was unorthodox," Olivia said carefully. Wells chuckled. "Desperate times, Ms. Parker. When traditional channels are corrupted, sometimes one must create a spectacle so shocking that it cannot be ignored. I knew my reputation would suffer, but I considered it a worthy sacrifice." "The horse?" Olivia said suddenly, remembering the animal at the center of the controversy. "Where is it now?" "Ah, Prometheus," Wells said, and Olivia could hear the smile in his voice. "Named for the titan who defied the gods to help humanity. He's living comfortably at my private sanctuary. Would you like to meet him?" 2 days later, Olivia, Sophie, and the core members of their alliance gathered at Harrison Wells' Montana estate. The man himself greeted them on the sprawling grounds, tall, distinguished, with intense blue eyes that matched his niece's. Despite the ordeal he had endured, he carried himself with dignity and purpose. "Thank you all for coming," he said warmly. What you've accomplished is nothing short of remarkable. You've struck a significant blow against wildlife trafficking, and you've done it while facing resistance from the very institutions meant to protect these creatures. He led them across manicured lawns to a spacious paddock where a magnificent chestnut horse grazed peacefully. The animal lifted its head as they approached, ears forward with interest. "Prometheus," Wells called softly, and the horse trotted over to the fence, the reluctant star of our little drama. Olivia reached out tentatively to stroke the horse's velvety nose. "He seems completely untraumatized by his experience." "He was never in danger," Wells explained. "The harness was specially designed for equine rescue operations. The video that went viral was carefully edited to create outrage, a necessary deception to draw attention where it was needed." As they continued their tour, Wells showed them the extensive sanctuary he had built on his property. State-of-the-art facilities housing rescued animals from previous trafficking operations. "This is what I've been working toward for years," he explained. "A place where these animals can recover and in some cases be rehabilitated for return to the wild." In a conference room overlooking the sanctuary, Wells outlined his vision for the future. "What we've accomplished is significant, but it's just the beginning. The network we exposed has counterparts around the world. Wildlife trafficking is a global crisis that requires a global response." He proposed the creation of a new organization funded by his considerable resources, but operated independently, dedicated to investigating and exposing wildlife trafficking operations worldwide. "I'm asking all of you to consider joining this effort," he said. "Your skills, your courage, your commitment to the truth, these are precisely what's needed." One by one they agreed. Olivia, Ryan, Megan, Daniel, Ethan, Maya, Grace, and others who had played crucial roles in the operation. Even Agent Lawson offered the FBI support for international investigations. The meeting concluded, Wells took Olivia aside. "You were the first to question the narrative," he said. "The first to look deeper. Without that initial doubt, none of this would have been possible." "I just followed the evidence," Olivia replied modestly. "When something doesn't add up, I can't help but investigate." "A rare quality in a world that often prefers comfortable fictions to uncomfortable truths," Wells observed. "Will you consider taking a leadership role in the new organization? Your investigative skills would be invaluable." Olivia thought about her position at the Wildlife Protection Alliance. Important work, but limited in scope, and often hampered by political considerations. What Wells was offering was a chance to make a global impact, unrestricted by bureaucracy or corporate interests. "Yes," she decided, "I'm in." That evening, as the sun set over the Montana mountains, the newly formed alliance gathered on the estate's terrace. They had come together as strangers, united by a common cause, and they had succeeded against overwhelming odds. The traffickers were facing justice, the rescued animals were safe, and a powerful new force for wildlife protection had been born. In the paddock below, Prometheus grazed peacefully, unaware of his role in the drama that had unfolded around him. Like the mythological figure he was named for, he had been a catalyst for change, a symbol that had drawn attention to a hidden truth. To unexpected alliances, Wells proposed a toast, raising his glass, and to the power of truth, even when it wears a deceptive face. As their glasses clinked in the golden light of sunset, Olivia felt a sense of possibility that went beyond their recent victory. They had revealed one network, saved one shipment of endangered animals. But there were others out there, other traffickers, other corrupt officials, other creatures in need of protection. And now there was a team ready to find them, expose them, and bring them to justice. The scandal that had begun with a shocking video had transformed into something powerful and enduring, a commitment to protect the voiceless creatures with whom humans shared the planet, and to hold accountable those who would exploit them for profit. The horse that fell from the sky had never really fallen at all, but the truth that descended in its wake would continue to resonate, creating ripples of change that would be felt around the world. Dear listeners, we hope that the story of Olivia Parker and Harrison Wells has moved and inspired you. This tale of courage, deception for a greater good, and standing up for those who cannot speak for themselves reminds us that sometimes appearances can be deceiving, and that true heroes may make great sacrifices for what they believe in. To continue this emotional journey, we've prepared a special playlist with equally captivating stories that explore the complexity of human motivation and environmental protection. Find it by clicking on the link to your left. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up. Every day, we bring unique stories that explore life's intricate challenges and triumphs. Don't miss our upcoming content that will take you on new adventures of courage and conviction. We're eager to read your thoughts and reactions in the comments section below.